Hey, you're welcome back. This is not a podcast. It's just my thoughts with Ron Markman. 2 episodes in one day. Why not? Let's get it. Once again, rest in peace to Irv Gotti, the legend. Super Bowl is coming this Sunday, all right? Super Bowl's on Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles in New Orleans. Kendrick Lamar is performing at the halftime show. SZA will be performing with him. I made predictions of what I think they'll perform for the show. I made a video about that. You should definitely check that out. Just real quick, my predictions are Not Like Us, All Right, Humble, DNA, TV Off, Squabble Up, Mad City, King Kunta, All the Stars, Luther, and Snooze. I think SZA will get like a little snooze moment. I don't think all of these songs will be played in full. It's a medley. It's only about 13 minutes. So those are the songs that I think they'll perform. Let me know what you think they'll perform. But also, my predictions might be off based off of something that Kendrick said. We'll get into that a little bit later. But so Apple Music is the sponsor of the show. And this morning, Ebro Darden, shout out to Ebro, Nadeska, Alexis, shout out to my girl Nadeska from Apple Music, interviewed Kendrick Lamar on the Apple Music platform. And an Apple NFL press conference-y sort of thing. There was an audience. The goal for this interview, I think, from what I gather, from what I heard, and what I understand, that, I've been in media 20 plus years, so not all interviews are the same, right? Like, there's a time and a place for everything. Things are set up a certain way. The goal of this interview, as I understand it, as I see it, is to hype up the Super Bowl, right? It's to get everybody excited for the Super Bowl. The interview lasted about 30 minutes, and there weren't like super in-depth questions about the battle with Drake or Not Like Us. It's the things that everybody are fixated on right now, right? The things that get the people going. There weren't any super in-depth questions about any of that. And it was never meant to be. I think that's part of the context. I'm in the media, so I knew that going forward. I saw Ebro talking about it on Hot 97 in the days leading up to these interviews. These things work out a certain way. So, I remember him saying something like he didn't know what the people were expecting, but, they were trying to set it up. I'm pretty sure it's part of the contract to perform at the Super Bowl that you do one of these sit downs. And to me, it went exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. I have a monthly music club that you all could subscribe to if you hit the join button down there. We have a Discord where we talk all the time about music, about what's going on, news as it happens. We share opinions, thoughts, we laugh, we joke. It's cool. So if you want to join the monthly music club, hit the join button. You'll get access to the Discord. But the monthly music fam could tell you, I said from the beginning that this wasn't going to be an in-depth interview about the battle or GNX. So it was just never meant for that. So once you know that context, right, and you had that context going in, it was a dope interview. It was dope to see Ebro up there with Kendrick. It was dope to see Nadeska up there with Kendrick. I mean, we haven't heard from Kendrick in a while. There was the Harper's Bazaar interview, but we read that. We didn't see it. So it was cool. And then it seems to be another interview, I think, coming tomorrow. I don't know much about it, but with Kendrick and Timothy Chalamet, the actor, which I don't know, odd combo. I think that's what they're going for, right? Like they're coupling two people that we never thought we'd see together, or that maybe doesn't make sense, but maybe there's some through line there. I'm not 100% sure, but we're going to tune in, right? So just going to go through some of this. I would play the audio. I thought about playing the audio, but it's an easy way to get flagged on YouTube. I really don't like... I'm monetization on. It's not like we're getting rich off of these streams at all anyway. But I'm not giving back any of this money to YouTube or Apple, or it just doesn't make any sense. And technically, that's Apple's content. I don't want to use their content without permission, right? The most I'll do, I'll put screenshots of the video on the stage. I can kind of get away with that. But, I don't want to risk it. I actually have a strike already from Grammy nights, but we'll talk about that later. So I don't want to risk it. I definitely don't want to. We're going to play it safe, so I'm going to read out some of these answers. I'm not going to play audio. But Nadeska asked him what it would be, what it's like to be the first solo hip hop artist to headline the Super Bowl. Obviously, I mean, we had Dr. Dre, but there was an ensemble. But I guess technically they're counting Kendrick as the first solo hip hop artist to headline the Super Bowl. And Nadeska asked him what it was like, and he said, maybe think about the grind of it. A lot of people don't see the story before the glory. So a bar, right? Even in his regular speech, he talked about selling mixtapes out the trunk. He talked about performing at neighborhood parties and little hole in the wall spots. And then he said, it reminds me of the essence, the core response of rap and hip hop and how far it can go. For me, it means everything because it puts the culture on the forefront where it needs to be and not minimized to just a catchy song or verse. This is a true art form. So to represent it on this type of stage is everything that I've worked for and everything that I believe in as far as the culture. I live and die by it. This shit done changed my whole family life, so I don't take it for granted at all as far as an art form. This falls in line with his Grammy speech, right? When he quoted Punch and he told the young up-and-comers to respect the art form. This even goes back to one of my early videos during the battle when I said the whole thing between Drake and Kendrick was going to be set up as a culture versus commerce, situation. And so this just is consistently in line with what his messaging and more so his actions have been, right? So it's just putting the culture on the forefront, as Kendrick says. Ebro then did allude to the battle and said, was telling Dot that, he put the culture on his back and he drew a line in the sand, and he asked if that was his intent because that was the energy last year. So he asked if that was his intent when he rolled out in 2024. And Kendrick said, my intent was to always keep, and then he paused. He said, I think from day one was to always keep the nature of it as a sport. I don't care how motherfuckers look at it as far as a collaborative effort. That's cool too. But I love when artists grit their teeth. Like, I still watch battle raps. I still watch Smack URL, from Murder Mook to Loaded Lux to Tay Rock, my bro Daylight. This has always been the core definition of who I am, and it's been that way since day one. And then he went on to say, so I don't think it was a thing for this year. It was always a continuum. He says, what I will say about this year is it was more from a space where a lot of people were putting rap to the back, and you didn't see that grit and you didn't see that bite anymore. So I always took that into consideration going into any type of my music. This quote, first of all, shout out to Daylight. I like that he shouted out Murder Mook and Loaded Lux and Tay Rock. Just shouting out the guys who really battle on a live stage, not just on record, right? Because that's an inspiration. And this reminds me of Control, though, when he said the key word, right? So again, this is like consistent, right? And he says, I think from day one was to always keep the nature of it as a sport. I don't care how motherfuckers look at it as far as a collaborative effort. That's what Control was about, right? When he just starts listing the names and, hey, I'm going to take all y'all fans. Everybody's sitting here like, yo, we're friends. And Dot is like, cool, but I look at this like a sport. Given the chance, I'll take any one of you out. Lyrically speaking, of course, right? And that was the energy on Control. So even hearing him talk about this, Control was what, 2012? 13? I think it was 13. 2013 was Control. Something like that. 2012, 2013, forgive me. But, we're over a decade removed from that. We're over 10 years later. And his messaging isn't that different. It's like consistent, like with who he is. So, again, I know people are looking for something or hoping for something more in depth because that's salacious. That's what gets people going. You want to hear him say, well, I came at Drake for this and this started because of this and this. But Kendrick is always going to maintain mystery anyway. I don't know if he's going to get into it. Definitely not on that stage. But if you listen to what he's saying and you connecting the dots, it all makes sense based off of who he's been this whole time. He's basically been telling you this whole time. In terms of GMX and GNX, he said that he just took it back to the things that he liked as a kid, and he's still talking about having that grit in the lyrics. But he was asked about GNX and really the transition from album to album, and he said just for GMX that he wanted to go back to the forefront of the bite and the grit of rap, just all raps and hard ass beats. That's just the basis for me. So he, as much as Kendrick has accomplished and as far as he's gone, what he's saying is that at the end of the day, it's about dope raps and dope beats for me. And to him, it seems like that's what GNX represents. He talked about the transition from Mr. Morale, which he says was his most intimate album. Obviously, if you listen to that, you know what that is, where it was like these innermost feelings and he wanted to see who he can connect with on that level. But that GNX was more just like back to whatever the basis was for him with these raps and these hard beats. Nadeska asked him about the Grammy win, and in particular winning with a battle rap song, and he said that he was just thinking about the culture. He said, when you put records like that at the forefront, it reminds people that it's more than just something that came 50 years ago. He talked about people belittling the art of hip hop, but he says he loves to see the type of recognition for straight raps, like when you're just rapping and you get an award for it, or the Billboard charts. He mentioned the Billboard charts and all of that. And then like it's like he emphasized in his Grammy speech, like respect the art form. Again, like the message is just consistent. And then it is funny because there is this debate as to how important are the Grammys. The like artists say they don't care about the Grammys until they actually win a Grammy, and then they care about the Grammys, and we say the Grammys aren't important, and then when our favorite wins, the Grammys aren't important. I mean, you're hearing this from an artist. He talked about that he loves to see the type of recognition that he gets from award shows to billboards, but the difference being is when it gets that recognition and being hip hop in its purest form, or its purest form as Kendrick sees it, right? When the art form is uplifted and not necessarily the commercialization of it, or just something that's just catchy, but the actual skill that it takes to put a song together. I'm theorizing. It seems like that's what he's saying. In terms of what he plans to do at the Super Bowl, right? This is what everybody wants to know. This is what we're all going to be watching for. He didn't really say. Again, and he wasn't going to give us his set list. You want to maintain the element of surprise. You want to entertain people. So we weren't going to get the set list. But he said Mr. Morale, talking about the tour, Mr. Morale was an hour and 30 minutes. So you got to smack that down to 13 minutes. And he kind of laughed. Like, how do you take this whole elaborate stage show that we developed maybe to go on tour, and you got to think about it in 13 minutes time? But then he said something key. He said, I love being present, and it's very hard for me to live in the past. I love being present. It's very hard for me to live in the past. This makes me feel, and he talked a lot about like where he is now, again, with GNX and just the basis of what he loved about hip hop, the dope raps, the hard beats. So that makes me feel like, and I don't know, this is just me reading into it, that he's going to pack more new songs into this Super Bowl set than I thought. We'll see. Remember, my predictions were, it was a mix, but not like us, All Right, Humble, DNA, TV Off, Squabble Up, Mad City, King Kunta, All the Stars, Luther, and Snooze. Since SZA's going to be there, I think she'll Snooze is just such a big record that she'll give a little bit of that and then get into something else, right? But, with me, when I think about the Super Bowl, I'm like, well, you got to do the songs that the mass amount of people know, and a lot of that is catalog songs. Everybody might not, even though GNX is doing amazing numbers, everybody might not be caught up to GNX yet, right? Like this is my thinking, this is my logic, and so you mix, some of the new in there, but you give the proven hits. This is Super Bowl. You're on the biggest stage, man. You got to give the proven hits. But the way he was talking in that Apple interview, when he says, I love being present, and he talks about his hard living in the past, and that was specifically after he was asked about kind of what he plans to do in the Super Bowl or how he plans to attack it. And he says, I love being present. It's hard to live in the past. I wonder if we're going to get some of these catalog songs. I mean, how do you not do Mad City? He has to do Mad City, right? How do you not do All Right? Like, how do you not do Humble? Like, so it's interesting. We'll see. But I was pretty confident in my list. I had said before, the only song like I wasn't 100% confident on was like King Kunta. But now off of this quote, I feel different. I'm turned around. Like I feel he threw my whole prediction off. But y'all can get in there in those comments and let me know based off of this interview what you think the predictions are. But let me know if you watched this interview, if you enjoyed it, what were your favorite parts, and we're gonna talk about it. But until the next time, all right, peace.